Christianic CYInterview covering Las Vegas and the world. If you haven't already, please hit the like button below, and please hit the subscribe button below to keep up with everything we have going on here at CYInterview in Las Vegas and beyond. We greatly appreciate it. Today we revisit our CYInterview with actress Kate Beckinsale. The CYInterview is from 2008 when she was promoting her movie at the time, Nothing But the Truth, and here it is.
Christianic here with you. Joining me today, she is in a very interesting role playing a journalist who ends up actually going to the slammer in Rod Lurie's latest picture. It's called Nothing But the Truth. The amazing Kate Beckinsale. Thank you for joining me today. How you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good, wonderful. I have to say, right off the bat, is this role your greatest accomplishment of your entire career so far?
Oh my God, I don't know. I have a few that I'm proud of, but certainly this one's very special to me, yes, absolutely.
And why is that?
It was just one of those ones where the script was really great, the director was awesome, the rest of the cast were just amazing, and everything just came together so well, that I think what you're intending to do as an actor before you start shooting the movie, largely actually happened, which doesn't always happen.
There's been a lot of award buzz, and I want to say congrats on the Critics' Choice Award nomination for sure. But what would you say to the Academy about considering your performance for an Oscar nomination?
Oh my God, I probably wouldn't. I don't know, maybe it's very English of me. I'm so happy that, given that the movie is small and the studio is not got tons of money to put behind Oscar campaigns for everybody, the fact that we've managed to have a couple of nominations. I was nominated, and Vera Farmiga, who's a brilliant actress, who's also in the movie, is nominated in Best Supporting Actress on the Critics' Choice. The fact that we're actually getting attention at all, given that there are so many huge movies around ahead of us, I think is amazing, and we all feel incredibly lucky and blessed.
Is it going to be hard for people to get past the fact that this movie is only loosely based off of Judith Miller, and this is really not the story of her life?
I mean, I think if people are looking for a movie about Judith Miller, I think that has yet to be made. I know that there are some people who initially felt kind of hostile about the film because they thought possibly we were glorifying or making a heroine out of Judith Miller, where in fact it's really just more, I think, the director, knowing a lot about that case and thinking, what if I use some of the elements in a dramatic story about a completely different sort of character, what would that be like? And I think if you're looking for a movie about Judith Miller, obviously you're going to be fairly disappointed because it isn't at all.
What did you learn about her in the time you spent with her?
With Judith Miller?
Yes.
I wasn't really interested in I think she was gun-shy a bit about probably the same thing, except she didn't want to be, have a movie made about her that made her, evil and wicked. She's also a human being. But I really wanted to meet with her just in terms of talking to her as a resource of somebody who, from the background and career that she's in, has the unsettling and surprising experience of finding herself in jail. I really wanted to just mainly talk to her from that perspective. So I didn't get to know her personally at all.
Well, if you were in her shoes, how do you feel you would have dealt with her situation?
No, it's impossible for me to say because I wasn't, and I wouldn't like to comment on that one at all. I'm an actor. I'm not a journalist. I'm certainly not a political journalist. I have to say, I think I would have to follow my beliefs and principles, and I'm sure she would probably say she was saying the same thing.
When it came to the prison scenes, obviously you actually did really film some scenes in a real prison. Did any of those male or female prisoners actually recognize who you were? I'm sure you got some response.
I mean, a bit. We spent a bit of time in the prison before we started shooting, and I went around and signed a bunch of people's Bibles and things like that, and they were extremely nice and very, very friendly. And that was the women's prison. I didn't do that in the men's prison. Probably not quite as wise to do that there, but they were there. It was a functioning prison we shot in, so they were there every day, and we would see them, every day when we were shooting. So no, we didn't become friends or anything. They definitely kept us, separated. But no, nobody was mean.
Well, I'm sure the men in particular had never seen anything like that in their entire life, or as long as they've been locked up, that's for sure.
Well, fortunately for everybody, I wasn't looking my best, that's for sure.
This was really an amazing cast. It included other veteran actors, including Alan Alda, Matt Dillon, Angela Bassett. What was it like working with these three veteran performers?
It was great. I mean, it really was. I've been looking forward to working with Alan. I'd actually done The Aviator, which we were both in, but we didn't have scenes together. I felt like we definitely got a second fling at that, and he's such a extraordinarily interesting person, aside from being an actor. You just want to talk to him and find out his opinion on everything and hear all his stories and stuff. And Angela was great. It was amazing having, such a iconically strong woman around. She was fantastic, and I loved working with Matt Dillon too. I think he's brilliant in the movie. Everybody was really, really cool, I have to say, and I was there all the time, and people would, everyone else would sort of pop in and out, and it was just a great pleasure, every time somebody came back, and you got to work with them. It was a nice acting workout.
So how has your perspective changed on journalism as a whole and what a journalist does?
I definitely became much more sympathetic to, the stresses and strains of being on the other side. I think it definitely takes nerve and intellect and passion to want to be a journalist, to do that with your life. I think there are really hard things about it. I think you have to struggle with your humanness and having to ask people questions who don't want to be asked, and maybe during times of their lives that are very difficult and they don't want to be probed and pressed. And I do agree that there's obviously a need for information. There are people who have to go to some lengths to get it and to make it available to the public. And I think, I suppose I've been much more on the entertainment journalism side, trying to sort of keep my private life precious and private, and that's been the area of journalism that I've been most familiar with. But this is a slightly different sort of type of it, and I could definitely see the nobility and passion that you'd have to do it.
So I say to you, moving into that question, why do you think there isn't more press on your personal life? Is it just because you've done a very good job of keeping it private and watching what you do?
I think that's partly that. I think it's also that I don't know how interesting it is that, my husband and I get along. My kid is not crazy. I'm not having, 3 new kids a year or an affair with anybody, or, I haven't suddenly decided I'm a lesbian. Possibly later in life I will become a lot more interesting, but at the moment, I don't know. Is it interesting, people sort of living their lives in a normal way? I'd much rather hear about people doing really peculiar things.
Well, being a mother of a daughter who's growing up before your eyes, has your perspective on life changed as the years have gone on?
In terms of what?
What's important to you?
Yes, everything absolutely changed immediately I had her, but that was, almost 10 years ago. I don't have really a memory of what it was like to be myself before her. It's a complete blur. My life came much more into focus once I had her.
So what do you do in your spare time when you're not working? Is it just mostly spending time with your daughter and your husband, and that's pretty much what your priorities are?
Mm-hmm, absolutely, yeah, I do. I mean, we like to hang out and do things and travel and go to the movies and see plays and go to art galleries and see our friends. I've got a lot of nice friends that we spend time with, and that's pretty much what we do.
So what do you think is the biggest misconception about you then? Is there one?
I'm sure there's many. I think one of the things that I found very important is to not pay too much attention. I think there's a public image of you, as when you're an actor, that is usually fairly incorrect. And I think if you spend a lot of time worrying about it, you're going to lose. You can't control it. Yes, there's millions of misconceptions, but I think I can't fight it. I can't really fight them and have a sane existence. If people want to decide that I've had, 8 facelifts and God knows what plastic surgery, then in some respects I'm just going to have to take that as a compliment and let it go. It is annoying, because you haven't. Nobody likes to be accused of doing something that they haven't done. My daughter hates it more than anything in the world. And it doesn't change, the older you get, but at some point you think, does it actually ultimately impact anything? No, it doesn't. I don't care.
So what was the thing that was reported that just made you laugh because it was so false? Was there something that was just so odd? It's like, really? That's me? That's really who I am?
Yeah, I think it's mainly the kind of, oh my God, I've had my eyes lifted, my face lifted, my lips injected. I wish there was a wand that they could pass over your face that would beep if you had had surgery. I would pass.
Well, Not yet. Definitely not yet. So when we look at this world and we look at your career, I have to ask, I'm going back to your professional life, most of your roles, or the majority of your roles, you've had to have an American accent, and we can't even tell that you're a British person of living. How are you so good at portraying the American accent?
I think it was pretty helpful that I was a language student. I went to Oxford University. I studied Russian and French, and I'd also studied German in high school. And I was really interested in all that, and I developed a pretty good ear for accents, and I've always found it interesting. I'm not a fantastic singer, but any kind of musical ear that I do have is much more in that area. So I enjoy it. I enjoy that being part of the process. I love working in my own accent. I think there's a different vibe to that. I did a movie in French, and I really enjoyed the liberation of speaking a different language in the movie. I love listening to the different the differences in how people talk, and I'm fascinated by that. So I don't know, maybe it comes easier to me because I'm so interested in it.
Yeah, definitely so. I read a quote recently where you said if you're not a drinker, you admit you're a smoker, and you said if you weren't a smoker, you'd probably be a bore.
Oh God, no! I think I said that when I was 17. I haven't smoked for ages.
Oh, okay. Well, that leads into my next question then. What do you say to then, like, again, for example, someone like President Barack Obama about quitting smoking while in the White House? And isn't it an important issue that the nation should be concerned about whether the president has a cigarette or not? Is that really an important issue?
I don't care whether he has a cigarette or not. No, I'm not. I think it's just so fantastic that we have a president who can finally read. If he's going to have a cigarette as well, good luck to him. That's how I feel about it.
Kate Beckinsale, the movie is nothing but the truth. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, my pleasure.
I'd like to wrap up in closing by giving you a chance to tell us something about you that we should know that we don't. Just anything about your personality, your life, anything. Maybe something you enjoy that we'd never think that you'd enjoy.
Oh my God, I cannot imagine why we would want to know anything like that. What do I enjoy that you would be surprised that I enjoy? Watching boxing matches.
Kind of impressive. Yes, Angela Bassett, who I actually spoke with earlier this year, couldn't come up with an answer, and I said to her, okay, let's just move along, but thank you so much for your efforts. Definitely. So, Kate Beckinsale, thanks so much again for your time today. Good luck, and hopefully maybe we'll see an Oscar nomination for this. It was a great role, and I think probably the best one of your entire career. Good luck to you in the future, and your daughter and everybody else, and I can tell you in closing, I am not scared of toes like somebody else.
Oh, okay, well that's good to hear. Not that I actually fell into that category that he was scared of, by the way.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, scared of toes? I'm not sure where Sean Diddy Combs came up with that.
That's pretty funny.
Yes, it really was. It really was, definitely speaking. Take care, good luck, have a good holiday, and hopefully we can talk sometime in the future again.
That would be lovely.